Chosen one, anchor your spirit to every word I am about to speak. That restlessness you have been carrying, the one sitting right underneath the surface of your chest that you cannot fully explain, it has a source, and today you are going to find out what it is. Because someone who loves you opened their mouth today, and what they said about you, you are not ready for it. It all shifts today. The waiting, the wondering, the silence that has felt like abandonment. But hear me clearly, this is not shifting because of luck or timing or coincidence. It is shifting because of who you are to the one who spoke your name today. Think back to this week. That moment when you almost convinced yourself that you had been forgotten. That moment when you looked at everything around you, the stillness, the lack of movement, the doors that have not opened yet. And you started to believe the silence meant something was wrong with you. You felt it, that slow, creeping thought that whispered, maybe I am on my own in this. You did not know it then, but that moment of almost surrender was the very moment heaven turned its full attention toward you. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. There has been a thickness in the atmosphere around you. Not chaos, something quieter than that, and somehow heavier. Maybe you were lying awake at 3 and a morning this week, staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios in your mind, trying to calculate your next move with a spirit that was too exhausted to calculate anything. Or maybe you were moving through your day on the outside, functioning, responding, showing up, but on the inside you felt completely hollow, like you were going through motions that no longer felt connected to any real destination. Or perhaps it hit you in a quiet moment, a flash of emotion you did not expect, tears you could not fully explain, a grief that did not have a name. That is not depression. That is not delay. That is the weight of a soul standing at the edge of something enormous it cannot yet see. The enemy has been working overtime in your thought life this week for one reason and one reason only. He heard what was spoken about you today, and he knows that if you receive this message, if you actually believe what was said about you, everything he has built against your life collapses. So he has been running his campaign early. He has been whispering a very specific lie into the quiet moments. Listen to your thoughts and you will recognize it. He has been telling you that the love in your life is conditional, that the people who matter have moved on, grown tired, or simply stopped seeing you the way they once did. He has been replaying that one moment, maybe when you pulled back, when you went quiet, when you were not your best self. And he has been using that single frame to write the entire narrative of your worth. He wants you to believe you have been disgusted with disappointment. But I need you to hear what the truth actually says about this moment. Romans 8:38 and 39 declares that neither death nor life, neither angels nor principalities, neither things present nor things to come, nor any power, neither height nor depth, nor any other created thing shall be able to separate you from the love of God. Hear that. Nothing you did this week, nothing you failed to do, no moment of silence, no act of withdrawal, no season of absence, none of it has separated you from the love that was speaking your name today. You are not being discussed with regret. You are being spoken of with purpose. The person, the divine source, who loves you did not bring you to mind today out of habit. You were brought to mind because your season is being orchestrated. Your name was spoken today not to mark your failures, but to mark your moment. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. The Holy Spirit did. This is a divine appointment that was scheduled before the foundations of the earth, placed in your path at exactly the hour your spirit needed it most. You are not early, you are not late. You are standing at the precise threshold where what was spoken about you today begins to take physical form in your life. Do not leave this message before it finishes. Your future self is asking you to stay, because if you walk away before the full word lands, you may miss the very piece of this that unlocks everything you have been praying for. In the next few minutes, I am going to reveal exactly what was spoken about you today and why it was said right now at this specific point in your story. I am going to expose the complete lie the enemy has been using to keep you from receiving love at full capacity. And at the close of this message, I am going to give you the declaration, the spoken decree, that aligns your voice with what heaven has already decided about your life. The heaviness you have been feeling is not punishment. It is not proof that you are forgotten or overlooked or loved less. It is the pressure of a promise pressing against the walls of its container, looking for the moment to break through. You are not talked about today because you are a burden on someone's heart. You are talked about today because you are a treasure they cannot stop thinking about. That is not weakness in them. That is the nature of real love. And you, chosen one, you were made to receive it. And what was said about you, it wasn't casual, it wasn't a passing thought or a moment of divine sympathy. What was spoken over you today came from a place of knowing, the kind of knowing that sees past your disappointments, past your unfinished chapters, past the version of yourself you keep apologizing for. The one who loves you most looked at everything you are, including the parts you've tried to hide, and spoke. And what came out of that place wasn't correction, it was confirmation. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now stay with me, because what I'm about to walk you through is not information. It's a mirror. And some of what you're about to see, you've never been willing to look at directly until now. Here's what most people don't understand about being spoken about by God. They assume it means everything is about to become easy. They imagine that divine attention translates into open doors and smooth roads and sudden reversals of fortune. They envision a celestial green light, a divine endorsement that clears all obstacles. But the truth is far more confrontational than that. When heaven speaks your name in this season, it is rarely to celebrate what you've already done. It is almost always to mark what is about to be required of you. It's not a pat on the back for past accomplishments, but a clarion call to future responsibility. And that distinction, that single, seismic shift in understanding, is where most people get stuck. Like a ship anchored too securely in a harbor when the tide is meant to carry it out to sea. Think about what happened to Jeremiah. Before he was ever born, before he drew a single breath, God said, "I knew you, I sanctified you, I ordained you as a prophet." This was not a hopeful suggestion. It was a foundational decree, etched into the very fabric of his being before his earthly journey began. And Jeremiah's response wasn't celebration, a spontaneous eruption of joy. It was resistance, a deep-seated tremor of doubt. He said, "I don't know how to speak. I am too young." In other words, you have the wrong person. He looked at his present limitations, the perceived emptiness of his current vessel, and declared himself inadequate for the divine mandate. But what Jeremiah couldn't see in that moment was that the very inadequacy he was confessing was part of the design, a deliberate inclusion in the grand tapestry. God didn't call him because he was already equipped, a fully formed instrument ready to play. God called him because the calling itself would become the equipment. The very process of obedience would forge the tools he needed. The task would reveal the talent, the journey would build the strength. And what was spoken over Jeremiah was not a compliment, a mere affirmation of his potential. It was a commission, a sacred assignment that carried with it the divine power to fulfill it. That same principle, that divine paradox of calling the unqualified to equip them, is alive and thrumming in your life right now. It's the echo of that ancient declaration resonating in your present reality. The reason this message found you today, and I want you to really let this land, to let it soak into the deepest parts of your being, is not because you've arrived, not because you've reached some pinnacle of perfection or completion. It's because you're standing at a threshold, a sacred doorway that requires you to stop waiting for permission to cross it. You have been waiting, waiting for the sign, a celestial neon arrow pointing the way. Waiting for the confirmation, a chorus of heavenly voices affirming your path, waiting for the wound to fully heal, for the scars to fade entirely, before you dare to step into what's next. But heaven spoke about you today because the waiting is over. The divine signal has been given, and the only one who hasn't received that memo yet, the only one still lingering in the vestibule, is you. You are at the precipice, and the sky is already opening. But here's where it goes deeper, and I need you to hold this with immense care, like a fragile bird in your hands. There is a lie that has been living in you so long, nesting in the quiet corners of your soul, that it no longer sounds like a lie. It has become so ingrained, so familiar, that it masquerades as truth. It sounds like wisdom, a prudent assessment of your limitations. It sounds like discernment, a careful evaluation of risks. It even sounds like humility, a modest recognition of your own fallibility. And that lie, insidious and pervasive, says, I'm not ready. I'm too broken. Too much has happened. Too much time has passed. I missed my moment. It's the whisper of the past echoing into the future, a siren song of self-limitation. And the enemy doesn't need to attack you violently, with thunderous accusations, when that voice is already doing his work for him from the inside out. He just has to keep that recording playing, that internal playback loop of inadequacy on repeat. And you, mesmerized by its familiarity, keep pressing repeat without even realizing it. What was spoken about you today by the voice that spun the stars into existence was spoken in direct, unwavering opposition to that voice of doubt. It was heaven drawing a line, not a line of judgment, a demarcation of condemnation, but a line of distinction, a sacred separation. A separation between what has been said over you by well-meaning but limited humans who couldn't see past your circumstances, who judged the book by its cover, and what has always been true in the eternal record of who you are, the unalterable decree of your divine essence. And this leads us to something most people miss entirely, a fundamental misunderstanding of spiritual reality. You've been treating your identity like a project, something to be perpetually fixed, a constant work in progress, something to be finished, a race with a finish line that always seems to recede, something to be earned, a reward for diligent effort. But identity in the kingdom doesn't work that way. It's not a ladder you climb, but a realm you inhabit. You don't grow into who God says you are, as if you're cultivating a seed from scratch. You grow into the fullness of what was already declared. The declaration precedes the demonstration. Always, every single time. David was anointed king while Saul was still on the throne, a young shepherd boy marked for a destiny that seemed impossibly distant. The oil was on his head, the divine seal affixed, before a single battle had been won, before he had slain a single giant. The word came first, the pronouncement of his future reality. And his entire journey from shepherd to king, through the valleys of pursuit and the triumphs of battle, was simply the process of his life, his earthly experience catching up to what had already been spoken in the unseen realm. Your life is doing the same thing right now. The decree has been issued, the blueprint finalized, and your earthly journey is now the unfolding narrative of its manifestation. Coming up, there is something hidden underneath the delay you've experienced, something buried beneath the surface of your perceived stagnation, something beneath the closed doors that seemed impenetrable and the silence that felt like abandonment, something that, once you see it, once you pull back the veil, will completely reframe everything you've been through, transforming your past into a prologue for an extraordinary future. Stay with me. But first, this has to land, to settle deep within your spirit. The people who talked about you, and I mean the people in your natural life, the earthly voices that echoed in your ears, not the one in heaven who sees with perfect clarity. They weren't entirely wrong about your struggle. They observed the hardship, the challenges, the difficult terrain. They were just wrong about what it meant, about the divine significance they carried. They saw the difficulty and called it failure. They saw the delay and called it disqualification, a sign that you were no longer in the running. They saw the wilderness, the barren landscape of your trials, and called it punishment, a consequence of some unseen wrongdoing. But wilderness in the kingdom has never been punishment. Wilderness has always been preparation. It's the crucible where character is forged, the sacred space where resilience is cultivated. Moses didn't become the deliverer of a nation sitting in the plush comfort of a palace, surrounded by advisors and ease. He became that man in the desert, tending sheep, far from everyone who once knew his name, stripped of his former identity, learning the quiet language of the divine in the profound silence. The silence wasn't abandonment, it was construction. It was the divine architect working on the unseen foundations of his being. And what was being built in the silence of your life, in the seasons you couldn't explain to anyone, the years that felt like a wasted inheritance, a dormant potential, was the very foundation, the bedrock strength, that what's coming next requires. It was the construction of a spiritual infrastructure capable of bearing the weight of your destiny. Now, once you understand that, once you grasp the transformative power of the wilderness, you're ready for this. Your suffering was not a detour. Let me say that again, with all the emphasis this truth deserves, because this is the part that most people rush past, eager to escape the pain and return to perceived normalcy. Your suffering was not a detour from your purpose, it was the road. Not a scenic route, offering pleasant distractions, but the actual, essential, non-negotiable road. And this is where the invitation from heaven becomes deeply personal, profoundly intimate, because the Most High doesn't just call the unbroken, the ones who have never stumbled. He specifically seeks out the ones who have been to the deepest place of their own undoing, who have stared into the abyss of their own limitations and emerged not unscathed, but transformed. He calls the ones who have gone to the end of themselves and come back. Why? Because those are the ones who carry something that cannot be manufactured, something that cannot be faked or mimicked. They carry genuine authority, not the hollow authority that comes from position or title or a vast library of theological knowledge, but the profound, unassailable authority that comes from survival. From having stood in the fire, the relentless heat of adversity, and discovered in the very core of their being that they didn't burn. They were refined, not consumed. And what was spoken about you today was spoken because heaven sees that authority simmering within you, that hard-won strength, even when you don't see it yourself. It recognizes the warrior spirit forged in the trials. But let me challenge you with something, because we're entering the part of this message that requires radical honesty, a willingness to excavate uncomfortable truths. You have been protecting something that has been costing you everything, an emotional fortress that has become a prison. Not your sin. You've probably dealt with that, confessed it, and sought forgiveness. Not your past, the events that shaped you. You've probably made peace with most of it, understanding its role in your story. What you've been protecting, clutched tightly like a shield, is your grief, the lingering ache over who you thought you would be by now, the phantom limb of unfulfilled potential. The grief over the relationship that changed you irrevocably, leaving an indelible mark on your soul. The grief over the version of yourself that existed before the loss, before the betrayal, before the thing happened that made you cautious in ways you've never fully named, building walls where bridges were meant to be. And you've been calling that grief wisdom, mistaking its weight for insight. You've been calling it discernment, a sign of your maturity and carefulness. You've been treating it like a teacher, a wise mentor guiding your steps when it has quietly, insidiously, become a prison, locking you into a cycle of sorrow. Grief has a purpose. It is a sacred process of mourning and release. But grief that is never released, that is held onto as a badge of honor or a shield against further pain, becomes a ceiling, a heavy, invisible barrier that caps your potential. And some of you are bumping your head against that ceiling every single day, wondering why you can't rise any higher, why your dreams seem perpetually out of reach, not realizing that the very thing you've been holding on to for protection, the very source of your perceived wisdom, is the thing that keeps you grounded, pinned down, when heaven is trying to lift you into your soaring destiny. Coming up, the one profound shift that changes how you carry everything from this moment forward, the insight that makes the weight feel light, not because the weight disappears entirely, but because you finally understand what it's for, its divine purpose, its role in your becoming. Stay right here. Because here is what most people never realize about the intricate, often counterintuitive way God prepares a chosen person for an extraordinary assignment. He doesn't remove the weight before he gives you the assignment. He doesn't lighten the load before he asks you to carry it. Instead, he builds your capacity to carry it. He expands your strength, your resilience, your spiritual fortitude, so that you can bear the immense weight of your calling. And sometimes, and this is the part that will either deeply offend you or profoundly free you, sometimes the very people who were used to wound you, who inflicted pain and caused deep scars, were not the enemy acting directly against your destiny. They were instruments, albeit painful ones, refining you for it. That doesn't excuse their actions. It doesn't minimize the damage they inflicted, but it does radically change what you do with it, how you choose to respond to the residual pain. Because if you spend the rest of your life being defined by what they did, if you allow their actions to be the narrative of your existence, you hand them permanent authority over a destiny they were never meant to touch, a spiritual jurisdiction they never earned. And the one who loves you and spoke about you today, the divine weaver of your story, he is asking you to take that authority back, to reclaim the narrative, to refuse to let their past actions dictate your future impact. This is where the real transformation begins. This is the turning point, the moment of spiritual reclamation. And now we enter the confrontation, the path that doesn't feel comfortable, the path that stirs deep resistance within. The part you might want to skip, to fast forward through, to politely ignore. But I need you to stay, to lean into the discomfort, because this is the moment that breaks the cycle of self-sabotage and limitation. This is the breaking point that leads to breakthrough. The hidden root, the thing lurking underneath all the delay you've experienced, underneath all the fear that paralyzes you, underneath all the grief you've been carrying like a shroud, is this. You have not yet fully, deeply, unequivocally believed that you are the one you've been waiting for. You have been searching the horizon, scanning the landscape for a sign, a confirmation, a burning bush moment, a prophetic word from someone who carries enough spiritual weight, enough perceived authority to finally make it feel real, tangible, undeniable. And the devastating, heart-wrenching truth is that every sign you've been given, you've talked yourself out of. Every confirmation has been followed by a legion of doubts. Every open door has been met with a meticulously constructed list of reasons why it might not be for you, why you might be unqualified, why it's too good to be true. And what was spoken about you today by the one who formed you in the secret place, who knows you more intimately than you know yourself, and who has never once looked away in judgment or distraction, was not a new word. It was not a novel pronouncement. It was a repetition of the original declaration, a cosmic echo of the first decree. It was heaven, the very source of your being, saying, I've been saying this about you since before you were born, since before the first breath filled your lungs. When will you finally agree with me? When will you align your inner reality with the truth I've already spoken? Because here is what you didn't see coming, what has been obscured by the fog of your own limiting beliefs. The real barrier was never the enemy, the external forces of darkness. It was never the people who misunderstood you or intentionally tried to thwart your progress. It was never the closed doors or the wrong timing or the lack of resources, the earthly obstacles that seemed insurmountable. The real formidable barrier has been your own deeply ingrained refusal to be the person God has been declaring you to be. Not from a place of rebellion against His will, not from laziness or apathy, but from a deep, quiet, profoundly understandable fear. A fear that if you fully step into it, if you dare to inhabit the identity He has proclaimed for you, and it doesn't work out as planned, if you fail spectacularly, you will have nothing left to protect yourself with. No armor against the world, no defense against further hurt. And to that fear, that ancient, paralyzing fear, today the Most High, the one who is everything and in everything, says, I am enough. My presence in you is enough. The power I have vested within you is enough. The power I have vested within you is enough. And this is the moment. Not next year, when circumstances might seem more favorable. Not when you feel more prepared, when the internal checklist of readiness is finally complete. Not when the grief finally lifts, as if its departure is a prerequisite for your advancement. Now, today, this very moment, tonight, before you sleep, as the world quiets and the veil between realms thins, place your hand on your heart, feel the steady beat of life within you, and speak this with everything in you, with the full force of your emerging will. I release the grief I've been calling wisdom. I release the delay I've been calling patience. I release the fear I've been calling discernment. I am not the person the hard seasons made me afraid to be. I am who was declared over me before I ever took a breath. The weight I've been carrying was never punishment. It was preparation, and I am prepared. I step forward not because I have all the answers or a clear map of the future, but because the one who does has already spoken my name and called it good. I am seen, I am known, I am chosen, and from this moment forward, I walk like I believe it. Because I do. If this message stirred something real in you, something that resonated deep in your core, don't let it end here. Don't let this powerful encounter dissipate into the ether. Share it with someone who needs to hear their name spoken over them today, someone who is still trapped in the echo chamber of doubt. Drop a word in the comments, just one word, a single utterance, about what shifted in your spirit, what spark was ignited within you. And if you're ready to go even deeper, to unravel the intricate tapestry of your divine assignment, to understand the profound significance of everything this season is unlocking within you, the link in the first pinned comment is waiting for you. This is not a coincidence. The synchronicity of this encounter is a testament to its divine timing. You were supposed to be here for this.